All right, hello everyone. Thank you for attending my talk. I appreciate you spending your time here, and I want to talk about how interns can be a great use of your time and energy. So a bit of my background, you kind of heard about it, but this is to kind of give more why I'm interested in the topic. So you may have heard about my position at the startup called the Commons XR. We're a data analytics company that specializes in healthcare. We take on an intern cohort every spring, summer, and fall, and the purpose being that we need a large amount of controlled data for our product. I've been doing this for quite a few years, almost 5 years basically, and so my total pedigree is about 80 interns or so met. So when I was thinking about what do I want people to get out of this, I want to make sure that everybody can get something out of it, whether you are in school, early industry, or late industry. So I wanted to frame it in a way that is not easily information out there. For example, there's a lot of information on how interns can get value out of an internship, but not on the other side. Not much talk about what the company can gain or what a mentor can. And so the goal is, what can companies get out of hosting interns, mentors as well, and interns to get the most of the experience, but framed through the company eyes. And then, of course, why interns are still important to the ecosystem. So talking about how a company can expect, what they expect from an intern. Right, there's some obvious ones, such as, they get some good branding, you have a way to have an extended interview with a candidate and make sure that they are, a good fit for the company. And then, of course, there's some concerns like, I'm not sure about the maturity of this person. So I want to first state by, typically the people that go for these type of internships are those that are a bit on the more mature side and are serious about their career and want to get the, step up as early as possible. And so, okay, you have your intern, they're here now, what value do they provide now? Well, one of the best ways, or really easiest ways you can figure out is through documentation. So of course you give them documentation, whether it be onboarding for the company in general, project, product, anything like that. And of course they're going to be asking some questions. And this is a great way to really test that. For not only have they probably not seen much of this stuff in the first place, but they come from a different almost space. As you may have heard, I come from academia, coming over to industry, that is a very different space. So it's something that they might have interesting questions that you may not have thought of. And again, it ensures that the company process procedures are kind of well knit and refined. So it helps them understand what resources they can go to if they have any questions, what they have to do next, and all that stuff. Finally, let's say you have them on a project, sandbox or what or not, and they can really help detect some things, assuming that they speak up. So one example could be such as maybe it's not as readable, right? So following some of the Zen of Python, you can make sure that readability counts. Maybe you want to improve your doc strings, maybe make things more explicit. And another thing could be, is there a good canary in the coal mine to ensure that when should things stay, or when should things perhaps maybe be deprecated or refactored? Finally, they also, in a way, kind of round out the company culture in ways to kind of give that new kind of outside look that's, make sure that it's fresh from school and stuff that's not in the industry currently. So this question here, right, what can a mentor gain? So again, as you may have heard Chris Brousseau talk about in the talk earlier, how PyBay and Bapia are a good way to get speakers to talk that may not want to, such as myself sometimes, right? I'm glad I'm here again. But I had to get some convincing to figure out if this is for me. I'm hoping to do the same for you with why you may want to take on an intern. So an interesting thing could be that they are an interesting opportunity to basically increase your leadership and talent development skills. As we know, as we increase our ranks in the industry, the soft skills matter more, and especially, of course, talent development, fostering growth, leadership, and all that. And this is a great way where you can make sure that not only can you show you're ready for the next level, but also if this kind of, depending on what style you want, what style you are as a leader, as someone that is a mentor. Because of course, we're also mentors, not just to interns, but to each other a lot of times. They usually come with some sort of something, right? Something, whether it's experience or something they built, because the interns that came here are usually people that have done something, even if it isn't a production environment. And it's interesting what ideas they may have or what experience they possess that could assist you in what you're doing today. Maybe perhaps, maybe they have some experience in T-string that you heard earlier. And they could be a great way to kind of expedite your process and learning process into understanding new technologies that come out there or things that you may not be familiar with currently that could be great solutions. And of course, it follows that they could be great at bringing in novel ideas due to such experience. I like to exercise what I call the reverse seniority strategy, where in a meeting I usually have those with less experience speak up first to kind of avoid bias and groupthink and hear their ideas first before more experienced people kind of say their piece, and then perhaps we go with a decision. One case that this was useful for me was how we arrived at choosing Plotly. So the story is we had our dashboarding tool, Power BI, but the problem is we had a lot of customization requests from our users that, simply put, was a bit too difficult from a development standpoint. So we want to get something that's a bit more easier to develop and a lot more customizable without having to kind of look on the marketplace or develop something on our own through the dashboarding tool. Somebody on the team knew Plotly, so I said, great, give me a prototype, match this output, and they did. Users liked it, we developers liked it. It's pretty, not that difficult to maintain, and so we moved forward with it. And this kind of thing happens a bit more in the industry than you would think. You can learn a lot from what people have in the industry or what they may bring from any walks of life. Finally, this last quote here, often attributed to Albert Einstein, kind of summarizes the depth you'd have to go to understand a topic. And it's not because of their age, not 6 years obviously, but because of their lack of experience. They don't necessarily know much. Even if they're great coders, software engineering is very difficult. So I kind of want to take a moment to go back to my talk last year a bit on, teaching in tech and what you can get out of it. So this slide, Bloom's taxonomy, talks about kind of the depths that one have to go to master a discipline or a topic. We, of course, want to get into a good creation stage, but you need the other elements of the pyramid to ensure that you can be at that stage. So what an intern can do is they basically can test you on the whole pyramid. So obviously they test your memory, but seriously on the understanding side, right? So they may ask you questions, maybe get to like the why phase of like, oh, why this, why that? And eventually you might get down to the point where, I'm not entirely sure. You go look it up and you learn something yourself, along with perhaps ways to apply that, you analyze, make sure it's great, and so forth. So again, just like in teaching, how the teacher often learns a lot when teaching students, similarly with mentors and mentees, a lot of times the mentor can learn quite a bit from having a common mentee. So as I said, not only how can interns get get out of this, I want to frame it in a way of what the company kind of expects you to have. So, of course, it's common that we know that you have to learn. But I'll make sure that you ask good questions. So don't come and say, oh, I have no idea what to do next, or I've tried nothing, I'm all out of ideas. You really want to say, hey, I've tried A and B, I haven't got much luck here, what is the best way to go to C, or even better, you would say, hey, I'm getting this error, I've written this test to validate this, and I'm a bit stuck at this problem here. What are some, how could you guide me into the next step? When you do that, not only do you increase your ability to learn, but you also show that you basically care, and you increase your mentor's ability to learn as well. We also expect you to at least try to adapt to company environments, right? Understand the politics, process, and procedure of a company, and also speak up if you have any questions, right? So there is documentation that, as I mentioned earlier, that could be improved, that might not be clear. There could be certain processes that maybe you're not really familiar with, or perhaps some sort of events that could be, advertised a bit better. So communities could be more developed in the company as well. Developing your soft skills is a very important thing, as I mentioned earlier, to kind of to promote yourself in the industry. And frankly, this is one of the ones that where you kind of, to develop this, you really kind of need experience in a sense. And so you have the opportunity, so of course don't waste it. Try your best, make sure that you hone in that communication, make sure that you have attention to detail, conflict resolution, and if you can, some leadership, depending on your circumstance. Finally, you're of course told that you should network, network with professionals. Obviously the goal is to get a return offer or to get something out of the internship that's tangible. But don't forget to network with your peers. Similar to like school, you're in the same academic cohort. In a way, you're also in the same career cohort of sorts, right? These are the people who are going to be in industry around the same time as you. And so it'll be great to kind of check in on them every 5, 10, 20 years from now and see what opportunities are out there. Or you might even get some lifelong friends out of it. I can tell you from my days in the intern, I still have some of my closest friends from those days. So the motivation for the talk, right? I talked about my interests, but why talk about this? I submitted a few, but this one I thought about, what is something that I want everyone to get out of the talk, but isn't talked about that much in the industry? And so we can talk about basically this article we're probably all familiar with, right? Or these stats about the the status of the industry currently with all the new grads. Obviously, this doesn't paint the whole picture nor tell the whole story, but it did do one thing, and it got people to talk, right? So we had to think about, okay, so how are we doing now? And then what can we do in the future to ensure that we have a healthy ecosystem? And so I also spoke with somebody recently in a different industry, and they told me about their reality of a crisis that wasn't exactly solved. That one is architecture. So this is one of the articles that's kind of common in there. And she told me, and basically summarizing it, that there is quite a bit more work now. And there was a large hiring downturn for the past few years. And the large amount of work that exists now, the current people that have the skills, there's not enough of them per se to do it, and also train new people. So there's a dearth of mid-level engineers, architects, so basically new grads aren't able to get jobs there either. So to kind of talk about how interns can help the community, right? As I mentioned, they provide a continuous talent pipeline, not only, again, for the industry to avoid kind of that crisis, but again, to also ensure that the skills are kind of passed on from mentor to mentee. It also kind of makes our industry, somewhat promising for those that want to get in there. So not just from high schools, but those perhaps from different industries. If they have the penchant, the drive, and tenacity to kind of make it here, to be a quality engineer, we would want them, right? So this is a great way to let them know, hey, this is great industry, still get yourself in there. And finally, it grows communities, right? Such as BAPIA, all the Python organizations out here. People that attend PyBay, and of course, if you watch the Python documentary, the women in Python, right? So the more that we can kind of have this more grassroots style of the community, the more it can organically grow. And so with that, I will thank you all for attending my talk. And yeah.